In this video, I'm going to show you how I put together my little Greek vase called a lekathos. In ancient Greece, they were used to store olive oil and other valuable oils. Theirs, of course, were made out of ceramic. This piece is just a little under 10 inches tall, and it has 327 pieces. There's 168 pieces in the feature ring. It was a fun project. It was challenging, but it was a fun project. So in this video, like I said, we're going to put the vase together, turn it to shape. I have a couple of other videos on YouTube regarding this project. One is where I make the feature ring, and another is how I laid the whole thing out. So if you haven't, I'd invite you to go ahead and check those out as well. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started and put together our lekathos. Each of our rings has 12 segments, so we're just going to go ahead and use a wedgie sled to cut those. I have another video that talks about how to cut segments on a wedgie sled, so please check that out if you get a chance. It's time to glue the segments into rings, so I'm just going to go ahead and use Titebond Ultimate Glue, which is what I had laying around. Any good wood glue will work fine. Okay, we got all the rings glued up, so we're going to go ahead and glue the number 1 ring, or the bottom ring, onto the waist block. So I'm using my large jaws and put the revolving center in the tailstock and just press it up against the glue block and glue it together. The foot of this project's going to be in a couple of pieces, and one of them's going to have a tenon on it. So I'm drilling a 3/4 inch hole through the number 1 ring so I can fit that tenon into it when we get ready to put the foot on this project. I have the number 2 ring glued on. We're going to go ahead and clean up the inside. I need to turn it to close to the proper inside diameter. So I just keep checking the drawing and measuring it till I get it to the size that I want. This process is the same on all the other rings. I'm going to start working on the top half of this vessel while the glue's drying on the bottom rings. The number 9 ring is the first cherry ring above the feature ring, so we're going to go ahead and glue on the next ring, which is number 10. While the glue's drying on the top and bottom half of this project, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the feature ring. I need to turn that ebony ring down, or ebony piece down, to about 1/8 of an inch and make sure that I keep that face flat to get ready to glue on our next holly ring. Time to glue on a holly ring. So what I'm going to do is glue that on and then split this ring into 2 pieces, and I'll use the other half on the other side of the feature ring once I get it off the waist block. So just a matter of gluing it on, waiting for the glue to dry, and splitting that ring in half. I've glued on another ebony ring, and I'm going to go ahead and split this one just like I did the holly ring. The process is pretty much the same. Split it and then use a thin parting tool to split it in half, and then I finish it up with a saw. This feature ring's a lot thicker than I'm going to need, so I'm just going to use a little square nose scraper and start taking away some of the inside diameter. I have all the rings on the bottom part of this vessel glued on, so I'm just going to clean up the inside of that last ring that I glued on there and get it turned to the proper inside diameter. Well, it's taken a while, but we're finally ready to glue on the feature ring to the bottom part of our project. So I'll just go ahead and put some glue on it and glue it on just like the rest of the rings and let it dry, and then we can start turning it to shape. Time to separate the feature ring from the waste block. So the process is pretty much the same. Part it down until I feel comfortable, and then go ahead and finish it up with a saw. Once I do that, we're going to go ahead and clean up the face, get the ebony pieces turned down to the proper thickness, and then get ready to do some finish work on this piece. I want to clean up the inside diameter of the feature ring a little bit, so I'm just using a parting tool to remove some of the waste, and then I have a little square edge scraper that square nose scraper that I'll use to clean the rest of that up. At this point, I just have the piece pressed together. There's no glue between the top and the bottom pieces. I did glue the upper holly and ebony rings to the cherry ring that's on the above the feature ring. So they're all glued together and ready to go. So I just used the parting tool to set some diameters that I took off the diagram, and then I'll just use a gouge and a scraper to turn it to shape. Well, I have the piece mounted on a lathe. I'm going to go ahead and work on the two rings that are above the feature ring. That first one needs quite a bit of material removed. It has a pretty big curve that goes up and meets that smaller piece there. So just using a gouge and a scraper to get it to the shape that I want. Now that I have the outside turned to shape, I need to go ahead and remove some of the inside material and make the wall a little thinner. So I'm just using a scraper there, and then I switch to a round carbide cutter. Well, it's time to take the piece off the waste block, which is always one of the more nerve-wracking pieces as far as I'm concerned. So I have my large cone center holding the piece on one end, and just use the parting tool and a saw to remove it from the waste block. The foot that goes on this project is in two parts. One, there's a round disc, which is I'm working on now. Then there's a transition piece. I'm sorry about the light there. I didn't realize that I got it into the frame when I was moving it around to see what I was doing. So I'm making a recess on the bottom side of this piece, and then I'm going to use it in jaws and expansion mode to hold it while I work on the other side. I have the piece flipped around and it's being held in the jaws with the jaws in expansion mode, and I'm just using a scraper to clean this up. I did drill a hole through it. The transition piece between this and the vessel is going to have tendons on it, and the tendons are going to get glued into those mortises, both in the bottom of the vessel and in this piece here. This is the transition piece. I drilled a hole in a board the same diameter as the hole in the bottom of the vessel. So I'm going to use that to keep checking the size of the tendons. So I'm just going to kind of work away here until I get it to the size so it fits in that hole, and then I know it'll go in the bottom of the vessel. Well, now I got the tendon to the right size. I'm just going to go ahead and spend some time getting this turned to the right diameter and getting it to the shape that matches the drawing. I'm going to use a 3/8 inch bowl gouge and a small scraper with a negative rate grind to put a cove on this little piece here. Last thing to do then is turn the other tenon down to the right size and then part it off from the lathe. I have the piece held in the large jaws and the revolving center in the tailstock. I need to flatten the bottom of this piece so that when I go ahead and glue the foot on, I get a nice fit between the two of them. With the piece fitted on there, I just took my pencil and marked the outside of the joint between the two. That way I know where to put the glue so I don't get any extra glue on there that I don't really need. Time to turn the bottom to shape. I do make a curve on it here, but truthfully after I did it and thought I was going to be good enough, when I put the foot on it I looked at it, it really wasn't the shape that I wanted. So you'll notice on the final piece, and I'll point it out when we get to it, but I actually put more of a curve on it and removed more material at the bottom. It kind of lightened the piece up a little bit and gave it a little bit better look, I think. Time to work on the top some more. I drilled 3/4 inch holes centered through all the pieces. I'm just using a 3/4 inch dowel with some blue tape wrapped around it to keep everything in alignment while the glue dries. The last piece to go on is a piece of ebony. This time I just put some paraffin wax on the dowel. The tape wasn't working out real well, so I just put some paraffin wax on it to keep it from the glue from sticking to it. Once the glue dried, it's just a matter of turning everything to shape. Use a combination of mostly a scraper. I think a scraper works pretty good, particularly on the ebony, which is kind of brittle sometimes. So, and I've come too far on this project to make a major mistake, so I'm going to be cautious. And while there's probably faster ways to remove material, this is one of the safer ways as far as I'm concerned. the outside shaped, I need to move some material from the top of this ebony piece. It's supposed to be like a cup kind of looking thing on the top of it, so I just need to basically hollow it out and give it a little bit of a cup look. Time to glue the two halves together. You'll notice on the bottom piece, down towards the foot, where I took some more material off and gave it a little bit lighter look. I think it looks a lot better than it did previously. So I just put a little glue around the inside of the holly ring and squeeze them together and wait for the glue to dry. Well, that's how I made my little Greek lekathos. I hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I enjoyed making the project. The finish I put on 8 coats of an oil urethane finish called Armor Seal from General Finishes. I like that finish because it gives them a nice soft feel to the project. So, as I said in the beginning, it was a challenging project, but it was a lot of fun. Most of my previous turnings have been Southwestern inspired turnings. It was kind of fun to go outside that area and try something different with this little Greek vase. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you got any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe.